Hello everyone, I am Crawlers and I am playing Mad Max the PC game, as you can see. Now, I'm going to give this game a review as best I can, which really isn't saying much since I'll be making most of this stuff up. And I'll also try to avoid any sort of spoilers for the main story, but I'm sure there will be some in the gameplay just because I'm recording, some footage, and due to the fact that, I don't have a ton of footage for this game, some spoilers may inadvertently sneak in. So, if you don't want to see any spoilers, you better close this video and turn around as fast as you can and run the other way. So, I'll give you 3 seconds to think about it. Let's see. Okay. So I've gathered, if you haven't run off by now, I will talk a little bit about the game. Now, I've watched all the movies, the classic ones, the new remake with Tom Hardy, which I must say turned out surprisingly well, and obviously I'm now playing the game, and the only thing that chafes my ass in games like this, is not completely not a bad part of this particular game, but is something that always catches my eye, is that when there are games based on movies based on other movies, the main character in this game never ever looks like he did in the main, in the movie that the game is made from. So that would have been nice to see, but it's just my outlook on this thing. It's obviously of no consequence, but the one thing that the game does quite well is graphics, and I must say the special effects are pretty cool. They look kind of movie-esque, the red-yellow fire filters over everything, especially when you press the nitrous button, everything just sort of lights up on fire, the whole screen, and there's nice, dust particles, there's all sorts of things coming out from the wheels, the sand flying every which way. You have dust storms rolling in sometimes. Now, it's true, some low-res textures here and there pop up sometimes, like Toto Biscuit spotted some low-res textures on concrete pillars when he was, really, really up close point blank to them, but other than that, it's just nitpicking, it's a pretty nice damn looking world, and you can also see pretty far. The draw distance is pretty incredible, and even on my PC, which isn't, the latest and greatest, with an i7 920 that is probably over 6 years old, and an NVIDIA 780 GTX, this thing runs at a steady 88, around high 80s FPS on Ultra, and at least till the dust storms roll in, which sometimes causes a bit of a dip, but otherwise the frame rate is pretty steady, and I don't even have, two Titans in SLI, obviously. The cars in the, being the main focus of the game, for obvious reasons, there isn't much else to do here but drive and then briefly get out of the car and punch people in the face, and well, speaking of punching, the combat is incredibly simplistic and will remind you heavily of the Batman Arkham games, where, most of what you do is just left and right click at the correct times to literally punch your way through the bad guys. You will be leveling up your combat style, among other things, but unlocking some new moves and new fighting styles, but the system will remain the same throughout the game. Just click to punch or dodge, and predetermined animations will roll through where you don't really have to do anything, just like in the Batman games. And speaking of combat, vehicle combat. So yeah, you can do very basic, just as you would expect, ramming type of combat with your car, Thunderdome stuff, kind of Borderlands, bash the enemy with your car type situation. And for that, you can equip your car with some spiky hillbilly armor, that's an actual term by the way, or cow catchers and so on. You can also use your weapons to aim and precisely take out a particular part of an enemy's car, like a door, a wheel, the driver himself. Shooting the gas tank is a hoot or yanking the driver out and accelerating from the enemy car. He'll just flop around Just Cause style as you harpoon him and drag him across the desert. You can drive in first person view, by the way, and this is a good bit of fun, especially when you do combat with the war boys. It's just tremendous fun in first person. You can't usually see very well after these cars for obvious reasons, because there's, a ton of shit on them. They're just a mishmash of parts. And speaking of the cars themselves, much as you'd expect after seeing the remake of the movie, except since this is a video game, there's really, literally no limits to the craziness and the shapes of the upgrades to the cars themselves. And you can upgrade cars like the, fancy parts, defensive parts, tires, nitro, and so on. And the cars, much like mechs, require fuel to run. So, finding fuel cans to refuel and scrap metal, much like in Fallout 3, to upgrade or quick fix the car is a must. Obviously, Chum Bucket, your faithful sidekick, will get out and fix the car or extinguish a fire if so need be when you stop and, give him time to do this. Otherwise, you will have to pay from your deposits of scrap metal to quick fix each car, and this is pretty expensive, so you better let Jump Bucket handle the situation. Also, fun side note, fuel cans can be used to blow stuff up after igniting them and hopefully stepping back some. Things will go boom in this game, and some things, even in the story, some things will require you to blow stuff up, like certain doors or fuel depots or things like that. And I mean, it's all fun, and when you get into a car of a rival gang, which you can obviously still steal after you've taken out the driver, they won't spot you easily while you're driving up to their hideout. And obviously this until you actually start blowing shit up, and that's usually how it goes. Different cars and upgrade parts have different abilities, and it makes an otherwise boring game of just driving through the desert that much more involved, that much more fun. And I gotta mention driving here real quick. Driving is, fun even with the keyboard, because it isn't twitchy as it usually is when you're using the keyboard to drive something in a game, even an arcadey one as this. It isn't just press right and turn right immediately when you press the button. It takes a good deal of time to actually turn the wheel, because the steering wheel is somewhat filtered, the input, So the longer you hold the button, the more steering you get out of it. And that's a good way to do things, I think, particularly when my main gripe with this game is that you can't play with just any gamepad. This is one of those games that will require an Xbox controller and nothing else. And to me, that's just a sellout to Microsoft. I mean, even with the Xbox gamepad, you still can't remap the buttons. You only have, you can only select from two layouts, and as it would be on a console. And this isn't a damned console. I mean, I paid a lot of money for my PC, and, thus, this is a little disappointing. One of the very few number of problems with this game, and there are very few here, I'd just be nitpicking, but I think it can be, even this problem can be forgiven because of how smoothly it runs, and it does run quite well. So, we'll stick to calling it a good PC port. And now there is a good bit of side missions here in this game as well. As I said, and some people might call this extra bit of gameplay and side missions busy work, and technically it is, but I for one, and you can think of this as a very generic opinion, but I for one like the extra bits. I think if the game didn't have them, then it would be boring as hell, and it would pretty much be fuel a game for games for Windows Live from a couple of years back, if anyone remembers it. It was pretty much a post-apocalyptic driving game as well, and it relied on the infamous games for Windows Live, and it fizzled out very quickly, in fact, much quicker than Titanfall. Reason is it was a cool concept, and admittedly one of the biggest reasons it failed, I think, was the infamous games for Windows Live, without which you couldn't, run the game online or unlock achievements. But also, I think it failed because there was nothing to do outside of just driving in the desert that went on forever. Of course, you had these stunt things and races in different cars, but it wasn't inspired. It wasn't that interesting to play. I mean, you drive around in a sand pit for 3 hours and that's it. What else is there to do? You can't get out of the car and punch people in the face, which I think is a nice touch in Mad Max. The game has, some depth to it, some character development. Very little, yes, but, still some. And speaking of, and this is a spoiler, turn back now if you do not want to know about anything that goes on in the game. Alright, you've been warned. I'm going on ahead with my thing. Alright, so Griffi is an interesting recurring character straight from the classic movies, in the Mad Max game. And coupled with the accent, he reminds me quite heavily of Jedediah the pilot from the original movies, played by Bruce Spence. And I honestly only remember him, this is shameful for me to say, but I honestly only remember him from the Mad Max movies because he played the train man in The Matrix. And I know, it's shameful for me to say that I did not put it together before. Well, he appears sometimes, Griffi appears, and you have these encounters with him, almost psychedelic ones, wherein he kind of bestows certain powers on you, much like the special in the Fallout series, where you get to choose which kinds of, traits your character can have, like, finding more ammo while looting a corpse, or get more health from drinking water and so on. And yes, Max has to drink and eat from time to time, in the game. Do not let his health deteriorate and, die. You can find a variety of food in the game, like dog food and such. The most disgusting thing I've eaten so far are live maggots out of a rotting corpse. Yes, it will remind you that you are in a wasteland sometimes, and you'll get buggered if you eat at that new Arby's that they built across the dunes. Those scabrous fucks. All right, so these abilities will change your appearance, or give you brass knuckles, or allow you to dodge attacks and so on. And you can choose your jacket and such. Real simple appearance. You'll grow a beard by the end of this game, obviously. There's very little shaving tools in the desert, obviously. There is no Kmart. As fun little activities inside the game, you can also go up high in balloons, in observation balloons that are strategically placed throughout the map. And these are like observation posts that you can have a nice look at around when you're up high, have a look at throughout the desert, because the draw distance is so great. You can, see across half the desert while you're up there. And by the way, these things also require fuel, so some balloons you'll find are empty. You'll have to refuel them with precious fuel before going up there. And I recommend stopping the process halfway, as they will not require a lot of fuel to run, so you don't pour out all the fuel from your can into the balloon. And here's an interesting bit of strategy, a pro tip, so to speak, I've noticed while playing the game, some which has really nothing to do with the review itself, because the game is pretty straightforward. The enemy outposts that have the sniper towers guarding them will shoot at you if you alert them by getting too close to the enemy base. And this is pretty straightforward. Obviously, they'll shoot at your car, and when you're not in it, they'll shoot at you while you're on foot. They can take the tires off your car and really put a few dents in it. However, they'll really put a crimp in your day if you're, not wrapped in 2 tons of wasteland steel. But here's an interesting note. You can't really hear the sniper firing at you, but the game actually alerts you to his taking a shot at you whether you're facing the sniper or not, by flashing the screen a couple of seconds before the shot actually lands. Now, this delay obviously depends on the distance to the sniper, much like the delay between the thunder and lightning during a storm, but you can really avoid getting hit if you pay enough attention to these flashes. But I digress. There are also races to participate in, which are actually quite, not incredibly easy to finish in time. Overall, the game's cracking good fun, I think, but I have a couple small issues with it, as I said. First, my Logitech gamepad isn't recognized. As I said, you need an Xbox controller to play, which I think is quite a sellout decision. Another very small point is that the game runs well on my 2560 by 1080 ultra-wide monitor, but cutscenes do not. These kind of snap you back rather abruptly to 1920 by 1080, and then back to your gameplay in ultra-wide. This is a little distracting from the overall sense of flow, but hey, who am I to really say anything? And my last issue with the game, and to me this is an annoyance, the places where you need to activate something or interact with something, are very, well, not buggy, but the interaction space is incredibly small, so you have to stand there, just so to make it happen. And I've spent quite a bit of time, trying to figure out why I can't move a certain lever or thing or perform a certain action, only to find out that I wasn't standing rather on the 1 square inch of space the game wanted me to stand on. And that's a little bit of an annoyance, it detracts a little bit from the game. They could have made these activation spaces a little bit bigger and more accessible, more obvious. Also, the game for some reason won't let you jump up on most things which, feel like you should be able to jump on. Other than that, the game rides eternal shiny and chrome. Oh, and one thing that I forgot to mention that some players aren't taking advantage of as they should, even though technically it isn't even part of the game, the cinematic tools in the main menu. These are pretty freaking awesome. In fact, I've made a few screen grabs just using these in-game tools alone without using Photoshop, and I'll probably link to those in the description, a small album of those screen grabs. Basically, these tools allow you to stage a scene or a screenshot with various filters and overlays, vignettes, and even a Mad Max logo if you want it. The possibilities here are really endless, and kudos to Avalanche for these bonus tools. They make the game, pop and give you some creativity in an otherwise somewhat repetitive game. You can really stage beautiful shots of, the loneliness of the desert, the cars, the combat, both vehicular and of the fist variety. And it's really just something, especially with all these filters that you can apply to the shots. So that's it. Thanks for watching my long review of Mad Max. I hope you found it somewhat entertaining, and please rate and share this video as it helps my channel grow. Check out my other videos at the end of this one, and remember, in Soviet Russia, YouTube subscribes you.